In all these interviews, you break the inmates and say, let's not go to the details of your trial.
Yes.
You're on. Why this urgency and this, in a way, constraint?
Well, I have 50 minutes with these inmates on death row to talk to them. 48 minutes into the discourse, I feel a hand on my shoulder, and that is a guard, a kind guard, trying to let me know you have got another 120 seconds. So you have to contain things, and you have to be, you have to perform, and you have to find the right tone immediately. And I keep telling them, every single one on death row, your childhood, in one case of Michael Perry, who was executed 8 days later, your childhood was a very bad one, a very complicated one, which, number one, doesn't exonerate you. And number two, it does not necessarily mean that I have to like you. 120 seconds in the discourse, and I knew the film could be over at that moment. He could just stand up and leave. He didn't, because he and the others saw that I was talking to them really straight.
Why this interest, what one might even call an obsession of yours, which is also, I think, in some way pertaining to your interest in certain spaces? In this particular space, you are in a confined, constrained space where filmically you can do so little.
That's true. Yes, you have no.
You have. I mean, they have nothing to work with. You have nothing to work with, and all you have, in effect, is discourse.
Yeah. And you cannot look left and right. There's just walls and bars.
And so you go from caves. You go from the caves 32,000 years ago, the caves of forgotten dreams, to these caves.
The common denominator, and what brings me into this is, since you cannot look left and right or anywhere into any depth, there's concrete walls everywhere, and you are boxed in. It's an attempt to look very deep into the recesses of our soul. People always ask me, doing films with death row inmates, that is really grim and that's intense, and is this a life-changing experience? My answer is no. My answer is no. It doesn't change my life. It doesn't change the course of my life. It changes perspectives, but it doesn't change the course of my life. And I said to him, Jared, you know what, having met you doesn't change the course of my life either. But you know what, it makes it better. And he hugged me very briefly. I mean, for a second, in embarrassment, a hard, quick hug, turned around and walked off. So that's a kind of...
End of story.
End of story, yes. I never saw him again. And I like this kind of behavior among men. Non-verbal, almost non-verbal. But yet it was a tactile context that I had with him.
It's interesting when you use the word tactile.
Yes. Yeah, feeling his calluses.
Yeah, I mean, the hands, but also what is so utterly extraordinary about these films is that there is so little of the tactile that is permitted.
Right.
I don't know in which one of the films, one of the inmates says that he hasn't felt rain.
Yeah, for 8 years or so, since 2001.
I mean, who would
has
say,
not had rain,
but who would say that they haven't felt rain? I mean, this is not something that you would usually in our course of life feel that you're deprived of. He hasn't been touched.
And you cannot touch them because there's a bulletproof glass between us, 2 inches thick. And you cannot even shake his hand or anything. And sometimes in these cases you have to be tactile in your discourse. How, I cannot explain it, but it's a very intense, very direct, very also quite something masculine. And in a strange way, I had similar kind of discourse with Fassbinder. We liked and respected each other, And sometimes we had moments, and it was always kind of strange because there were all these gay men in leather jackets and tattoos and standing around with suspicion in their eyes and looking at me. So, and all of a sudden, Fassbinder and I would hug each other very fleetingly, flee from each other, and then walk apart. So
you're interested in these constricted spaces, in
Yes.
these impossible spaces, in these spaces where certain things are not permitted, and even where it is really nearly not permissible to get into them.
you see, Paul, it sounds as if I was zigzagging around from Fassbinder to Cave Bears and to Jared Talbot. No, it is not. It's very linear. That's how I live my life. That's how I'm good, and I function well when it comes to physical contact, when it comes to landscapes where I can touch the ground, where I can grapple up on a mountain, and I don't know exactly what it is, but I feel comfortable.